Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Well, today I'm going to show you how I made this little timber handle for this little flush trim saw blade that I bought. I bought the blade on its own because the handle and the blade together was quite a little bit more to buy. So I thought, look, I can make a handle quick, which I have today, and I'll show you guys how I did it. Okay, so this is the blade I bought. It wasn't a super expensive blade to buy, but the blade on its own was considerably cheaper than buying the blade with a handle. So I bought the blade on its own. It's a Japanese flush trim blade. Now we're going to mount that in that handle, a slot in the end that I'm going to incorporate in that there, about that deep in to the handle, roughly like that. And I'll shape this handle the shape that I want it to be shaped. So it's not a bad little flush trim blade. I don't use this sort of thing very much, so I bought this small one. Considering most of the sizes I'll be doing will be small. So I'm going to plane this up now. This is a bit of Mackay cedar. And I'll plane it up, and it's just an offcut. It gets this red and yellow sort of grain. This is more coming towards the sapwood side of the tree. It gets that deep red in the middle. But we'll probably machine a fair bit of that. That's not going to be an issue for what we're making here today. So I'll just true that up with a hand plane and we'll go from there. Using the Stanley No. 3 that I showed just a quick restoration video on. It's a few videos ago now. You could go back and look at that if you want. Just going to parallel the sides now. Not that it's overly crucial, but I'll do it anyhow. So I take the reference points off the square edges. I'll have to mark that down a bit more because there we go. Only taking a whisker off that. Alright, so we've planed that down pretty good. I just got to do this other side here now. Now, it looks pretty parallel. I'll just probably smooth it down. Okay, so there we have our dressed piece of timber. This is just a waste end that I'll have to cut off. It looks a little bit out of square here. I'll just check my squareness. Yes, this face side's a bit out of square, so I'll have to just true that back up. Alright. Okay, so that's got our block of wood up nice and square and parallel. Now I'm just going to mark out where I want to go with this handle. So that's the blade we have. And I just locate it on there just temporarily, just to see how it goes. And I'm going to go to about Actually might go back to there. So the depth I want to do with my cut is to there. So I'll make a square cut down centre. I'll just square that around. Square that around on both edges because I want to bring my cut down dead centre. Now what I'll do is just use my marking gauge, find centre. So roughly find centre by eye. Tighten it off just a little bit. That's not centre. Just prick the side of my board. Prick the side of my board. It's not exactly right. It needs to be about 1 millimetre more. That's too much. Then I bring the pointer dead centre. The light's not that good this morning. That's pretty well right there. So what I do now is I'll mark the edge off in the top. So I just scribe a mark like that. Scribe a mark across the top. Nice and square. And I'll go down this other side. I have to follow that bit of grain. I'll just double check that is centre. Yep. That's good. Alright. So there we have it. I'll just mark those marks across the top. Not exactly the best timber to use a marking gauge on, but nevertheless it works. So the next thing we do is we put that in our vise, and I'm just using a very fine curved tenon saw to cut. And I follow that dead vertical down. A little bit out with my mark there, I think. Not majorly so. Okay, so I'll follow the marking gauge mark down to the stop. The blade's a bit tight, I'll just wax it up. As I get towards the end of my cut, I'll check both sides to make sure I haven't gone too deep. Okay, so there we have our cut. Now that blade will go in there and it'll be facilitated in there, and then it'll be clamped with a bolt through there. That will pull it nice and tight. That's all the original handle. Just was a little plastic handle which cost quite an amount more. I thought I'll just make one out of timber. It's not much to make one. So there you go. So now I'm going to mark across my blade here. I'm just going to do a little pencil mark just lightly like that. Then I'm going to take my blade out. You can see that pencil mark just ever so lightly. I'm going to put that on the side, lining up that mark. And this, all I'm going to do with this is just work out where I'm going to put my bolt hole, which is going to be about, I'm going to go to the centre of that big hole still. So it's going to be there, and I'm going to mark centre roughly with my eye. And that's pretty good, see? So you might not be able to see that. I'll bring that up a bit closer. There we go. So what I'll do is I'll mark out a rough shape that I want the handle there. So, just grip it roughly where I want to grab it. I'll make that the end of my handle. And on the sides, I might just scallop out a whisker. Just do a slight scallop on the side. So I'll square that mark across that I've done there. Go and trim that on the saw. Actually, before I do, I'll do a couple of corners on this. Alright, so I've got a little curvy thing here that I'll use. And on the sides, what I'll do on the sides is come right down to that mark, that square mark that I marked first at the depth of the blade. I'll just come through. I'll actually put a marking on the edge of it because I don't really need it full width at that point, although at the end of the blade I do. I'm going to go in about there, and with this one I'll scallop right through to there. Well, that looks a bit narrow, so I'm going to have to get something with a more gradual curve than that. Okay, so I think this curve is big enough to do, but what I might do is actually bring them marks in a bit. All this is entirely up to what you would like to do. Okay, so I'll line up the two tangenting points. It's a bit hard for you guys to see probably what I'm doing. Very hard to see. Sorry about that. Look, I'll cut it out and I'll show you, but I've actually done two marks, and which you can't see on this timber that good. They're curved in like that, so I'll go and cut that out and show you what I've done. Now all I have to do is round over the edges. Alright, now I'm giving it a quick sand, and then I'll give it a quick coat of baby oil, which works quite well on just this sort of thing. And here we have the finished product. Much better looking than a plastic handle. Thanks for joining me as I showed you how I made this little timber handle for the flush trim saw blade. I hope that's been a help to somebody out there. It was just a simple video and I thought it might help somebody, so I'll post it. Oftentimes you get a keyhole saw blade or another saw blade that has a sliding groove like this one has, and the handles break. Sometimes the handles aren't a very sturdy handle at all, but you have to make a new one. And they're not too hard to make. Look, don't ever not try to do a handle. Handles are quite good fun to do. They're very rewarding because you get to look at something that you created with your own hand, and it does the job, and it is very serviceable for years to come. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.